The stars were peaceful. They had been peaceful for 300 years. But peace, Captain Reeves Ashford would soon remember, is not the absence of the capacity for violence. Peace is the choice not to use it. And someone was about to force humanity to make that choice again. 4 hours after they opened fire, the strongest fleet in the galaxy was nothing but debris drifting in the void. Warships that had conquered 17 species reduced to molten slag and frozen corpses. An empire that believed itself invincible learned what happens when you mistake restraint for weakness. This is the story of why that door was locked from the inside. This is the story of Captain Reeves Ashford and the day someone reminded humanity what it used to be. But to understand the awakening, you must first understand the sleep. 30 days earlier, Sanctuary Prime floated in the center of Coalition space like a jewel suspended in black velvet. 47 species called this station home. 47 different kinds of beings who had learned to live together, to trade together, to exist in harmony. The ships that drifted past the great viewing windows reflected that diversity. Vin vessels looked like crystalline sculptures, refracting starlight into rainbow patterns. Morak freighters were round and fat, resembling the fruit of their homeworld. Keleth warships, slim and elegant, cut through space like knives through water. And then there were the human ships, gray rectangles with engines attached. Nothing special, nothing threatening, boring, utilitarian, utterly forgettable. Exactly how humanity wanted them to appear. Ambassador Nathaniel Crane stood at that viewing window, 60 years of diplomatic service weighing on shoulders that had once carried a Marine Corps uniform. His hair had gone silver decades ago. His face bore the lines of a man who had negotiated peace treaties while remembering what war looked like. He watched a human cargo vessel, the Morning Star, drift past. Gray hull, standard engines, transponder, identifying it as a civilian freighter registered out of Luna. To any observer, it was exactly what it claimed to be. Crane knew better. Every human ship was a lie, and that lie had held for 3 centuries. His communicator chimed. Encrypted frequency. He recognized the protocol immediately. Ambassador Crane, he answered. Nathaniel. The voice on the other end belonged to General Marcus Webb at Earth Strategic Command. They had served together once before the Great Disarmament, before humanity had hidden its teeth behind a smile. We have a situation. Crane's jaw tightened. New harvest. The Zarn are circling. Our intelligence suggests they're preparing to make their move within 30 days. Crane closed his eyes. New harvest. 2 billion souls. One of humanity's largest colonies. Agricultural world universities, research facilities. Families. Children. His goddaughter's daughter lived there. Isabel Ashford. 17 years old. Brilliant. Studying wheat genome engineering. Wanted to feed the galaxy. What are we doing about it? Crane asked. We've submitted formal requests to the Coalition Council for a mutual defense pact. Expedited process. How many times had we submitted those requests, Marcus? Silence on the line. They both knew the answer. 17 times in the past century. 17 rejections. This time might be different, Webb said, but there was no conviction in his voice. And if it's not, another pause. Longer this time. When Webb spoke again, his voice was harder. Then I've been authorized to transmit the activation codes. Crane felt his heart skip. Protocol Fenrir. After 300 years, Nathaniel. God help us. The line went dead. Crane stood at the window for a long time watching ships drift past. Peaceful, serene, beautiful. The calm before the storm. 12,000 light years away. Captain Reeves Ashford was hauling mining equipment when her life ended. She just didn't know it yet. The Morning Star groaned as it decelerated from superluminal transit. The ship was 40 years old, patched together from spare parts and determination. It had been Reeves's home for 15 years, ever since she retired from the Earth Defense Force at the inexplicably young age of 27. She sat in the captain's chair, watching the destination system resolve on her screens. Another mining colony, another load of equipment, another paycheck that would keep her flying, keep her away from Earth, keep her away from memories she had spent 15 years trying to forget. Reeves was 42 years old. Dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, blue-green eyes that had seen things most civilians never would, hands that were steady on the controls because they had to be, because steadiness was all that stood between her and the nightmares that waited in the dark hours before dawn. The communicator chimed, not ship to ship, personal frequency, video call. She smiled for the first time in days and accepted the connection. Isabel Ashford appeared on the screen, and suddenly the universe was brighter. 17 years old, with her mother's eyes and her grandmother's smile, sandy blonde hair, freckles across her nose, the kind of genuine enthusiasm that only the young and hopeful possess. Mom, Isabel's face lit up. You're early. I wasn't expecting you to be in range for another 2 hours. Push the engines a bit, Reeves said. Her voice was softer now, gentler. This was the only person in the galaxy who got to see her like this. Wanted to catch you before your afternoon lab session. We made a breakthrough. Isabel was practically vibrating with excitement. The modified strain is showing 40% increased yield in low nitrogen soil. Do you know what that means? Tell me. It means we could potentially feed another 2 million people per harvest cycle on marginal agricultural worlds. Worlds that can't support standard wheat. Mom, we could end food scarcity in the outer colonies. Reeves felt her chest tighten, pride fierce and overwhelming. Her daughter was going to change the galaxy not with weapons or warships, but with wheat, with hope, with life. That's incredible, sweetheart. Professor Chen thinks we could have field trials ready within 6 months. He's already talking about publishing our findings in the Interspecies Agricultural Journal. Can you imagine I'd be published at 17? Your grandmother would be so proud. Isabel's smile faltered slightly. I wish I could have met her. She was like you, believed in building things instead of breaking them, believed in feeding people instead of fighting them. Is that why you left the Defense Force? Because you wanted to build instead of break? The question caught Reeves off guard, the way it always did when Isabel probed at the locked door Reeves kept between her past and her present. Something like that, Reeves has said carefully. Uncle Nathaniel called me last week. He was asking about security protocols at the university. Seemed worried about something. Reeves felt ice crystallize in her chest. Nathaniel Crane was many things, but he never worried without reason. What did you tell him? That we have the standard coalition protocols. Why is something wrong? Reeves forced herself to smile. Forced the fear down into the box where she kept all the other things she couldn't afford to feel. Nothing's wrong, baby. Uncle Nathaniel worries about everyone. It's his job. When are you going to visit? You haven't been to New Harvest in 2 years. Soon, I promise. After this haul, I'll take a break and come see your miraculous wheat. Isabel's smile returned bright and trusting. I'm holding you to that, Mom. I love you. I love you too, Isabel, more than all the stars. The connection ended. The screen went dark. Reeves sat in silence for 30 seconds. Then she opened a locked drawer beneath her command console. Inside was an old communicator, military grade, encrypted to frequencies that officially no longer existed. She powered it on for the first time in 15 years. One message waited. Timestamp 6 hours ago. She opened it. 5 words, Article 12 has been invoked. Her hands began to shake. Sanctuary Prime Coalition Council Chamber. The session began with all the usual pageantry. Representatives from 47 species arranged in concentric circles, each delegation seated, according to protocols established over centuries of cooperation. Translators hummed in the background, converting speech into formats that species without auditory organs could perceive. Ambassador Crane took his seat in the human delegation area. Modest, understated. The humans always sat toward the back, never demanding attention, never making themselves seem important or threatening. 3 centuries of careful performance. 3 centuries of being exactly what everyone wanted them to be. Harmless, helpful, grateful to be included. The council leader, an elderly Vin, whose crystalline form refracted the chamber lights into complex patterns, called the session to order. The council recognizes Ambassador Krathus of the Zarn hegemony. Crane's stomach dropped. Warlord Krathus rose. 9 feet of armored scales and predatory intent. The Zarn were one of the few militant species who had been allowed into the coalition admitted 50 years ago after they lost a war with 3 neighboring species. The coalition had offered membership as an alternative to destruction. The Zarn had accepted. But they had never stopped being what they were, conquerors looking for their next conquest. Krathus's voice rumbled through the translation system like distant thunder. The hegemony has an announcement. The human colony of New Harvest lies in a strategically important region. It is inefficiently defended. He showed too many teeth in what might have been a smile. The hegemony will assume protection duties for this world. The humans will pay tribute in agricultural goods. This is our right under the Strong Protector protocols. Wah! Crane was on his feet before he realized he was moving. New Harvest is a sovereign human world with 2 billion citizens. We don't need or want Zarn protection. Then you need a coalition defense pact. Krathus's smile widened. Do you have one human? The chamber went utterly silent. Every ambassador suddenly found their data tablets fascinating. No one met Crane's eyes. The coalition does not permit aggression against member species, Crane said carefully, his voice steady even as his heart raced. This is not aggression. This is protection. Krathis sat down looking satisfied. The humans have 30 days to agree to our terms. After that, we will be forced to take enforcement action. Crane called for a vote. Surely someone would stand with humanity. Surely after 300 years of friendship, of trade, of cooperation, someone would defend human sovereignty. The vote was called. 41 species voted for diplomatic resolution. 2 abstained, 4 were absent. Not a single species voted to defend humanity with military force. Not one. Crane stood in that chamber and understood finally and completely that humanity was alone. They had always been alone. The coalition had welcomed humans not as equals, but as useful subordinates. Harmless, helpful, ultimately disposable. He walked back to his office in silence. His hands did not shake. His face betrayed no emotion. 60 years of diplomatic training held him together. He sat at his desk, encrypted the message with codes that only 6 people on Earth could decrypt, and sent 2 words, Article 12. The response came back in less than an hour. 2 words that changed everything. We understand. The Morning Star. Reeves pushed her ship harder than she had in 15 years. The engines whined in protest. The hull groaned. She didn't care. She had dumped her cargo at the nearest automated station, filed for emergency leave, and plotted a direct course for the one place she swore she would never return to Earth. The Morning Star wasn't a fast ship. It would take 3 days at maximum burn, 3 days to think, 3 days to remember, 3 days to decide if she was ready to become who she used to be. She stood in her quarters staring at the closet she had kept locked for 15 years. The biometric scanner still recognized her fingerprint. The lock disengaged with a soft click. Inside, wrapped in vacuum-sealed polymer, was a uniform. Dark gray with red stripes down the sleeves. Captain's insignia on the collar. United Earth Defense Force. Active service. Beside it was a trunk. She hadn't opened it in 15 years, but she knew exactly what was inside. Service weapon. Personal armor. Command authorization codes. And at the very bottom, sealed in a titanium case, her captain's ring from the USS Relentless. The ship they told the galaxy had been decommissioned. The ship they said was now a museum piece orbiting Luna, a testament to humanity's peaceful intentions. Reeves had been there when they decommissioned it. She knew the truth. She sat on her bunk holding the uniform and let herself remember. 15 years ago. Captain Reeves Ashford, age 27, stood on the bridge of the USS Relentless and watched the most beautiful ship in the fleet power down for the last time. 3 kilometers of cutting-edge warship. The most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could shrug off nuclear detonations. A crew of 850, the best and brightest the Earth Defense Force had to offer. And they were turning it off, mothballing it, making it into a museum. Admiral James Blackwood stood beside her. He was 50, then gray at the temples, his face carrying the weight of decisions that would define a species. "This isn't fair, sir," Reeves said quietly. "No," Blackwood agreed, "it isn't. We built this fleet to defend ourselves, to make sure we'd never be victims again. And now we're just giving up." "We're not giving up, Captain. We're adapting. This feels like surrender." Blackwood was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that Reeves didn't understand until much later. "The coalition wants to believe we're harmless, so we'll let them believe it. We'll be what they expect. Peaceful, compliant, grateful. For how long? For as long as it takes." He turned to her. "Captain Ashford, I'm offering you a choice. You can continue with the decommissioning process and transition to the reserves like most of your crew. Or you can understand that sometimes the best weapons are the ones nobody knows exist." Reeves stared at him. "Sir, I don't understand." "You will, someday. God willing, you'll never need to. But if that day comes," he placed a hand on her shoulder, "if that day comes, you'll receive a message. 2 words, and you'll know what to do." Reeves left the service 3 months later. Honorable discharge. Early retirement. She bought a cargo freighter and disappeared into the shipping lanes, just another ex-military spacer, making a civilian living. She told herself she had left the war behind. She was lying. Present day. The Morning Star dropped out of superluminal transit at the edge of the solar system. Reeves had pushed her engines so hard she was genuinely surprised they hadn't exploded. Earth filled her view screen. Blue and green and achingly beautiful. Home. And surrounding it, Reeves's breath caught. Surrounding Earth were ships. Thousands of them. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, colony transports, passenger liners, survey craft, every conceivable class of civilian vessel, all converging on humanity's homeworld in synchronized patterns that spoke of military precision hidden beneath civilian chaos. Morningstar, this is Earth Traffic Control. Transmit your authorization codes. Reeves pulled a titanium case from her trunk. Inside, the captain's ring gleamed. She slid it onto her finger. The ring synchronized with her ship's systems transmitting codes she didn't know her freighter possessed. 5 seconds of silence. Then, authorization confirmed. Captain Ashford, you are cleared for priority routing. Proceed to Luna Shipyard 7. A berth has been prepared for you. Luna Shipyard 7. The museum. Reeves engaged her engines and flew toward her past. As she approached the moon, she saw it. Impossible. Unbelievable. Glorious. Luna Shipyard 7 was blazing with activity. The old tourist attraction had transformed into a military installation operating at full capacity and docked in the main berth exactly where it had been decommissioned 15 years ago, the USS Relentless. But this wasn't the old ship. This was new. This was a Relentless that had never stopped being built, refined, perfected in secret, while the galaxy believed humanity had forgotten how to make weapons of war. Reeves felt tears on her cheeks. She hadn't cried in 15 years. Not since the day she left this ship. Not since the day she thought humanity had given up its right to defend itself. She had been wrong. They had never given up. They had just hidden, waited, prepared. For 300 years, humanity had been building an arsenal behind a smile, and someone had just given them a reason to use it. The Morningstar docked. Reeves suited up in the uniform she swore she'd never wear again. It still fit perfectly. As she walked through the umbilical toward the shipyard, she saw other captains arriving. Other retired officers. Other people who thought they had left the war behind. All of them wrong, all of them coming home. Admiral Blackwood met her in the main hangar. He was 68 now, white-haired, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Welcome back, Captain Ashford," he said. "Your ship is ready." Reeves looked past him at the Relentless, at the crew already boarding, at the arsenal that shouldn't exist. "How long?" she asked. "How long have you been building this?" "Since the day we decommissioned the first Relentless," Blackwood said. "Every cargo ship with hidden weapon mounts. Every mining laser that can be a ship killer. Every colony with underground factories. We've spent 3 centuries building a military that looks like a civilization. Why persona? Because we learned something the coalition hasn't figured out yet." Blackwood's expression was grim. "Real peace requires the strength to defend it and the wisdom to choose restraint. You can't choose restraint if you don't have strength to begin with." Reeves thought of Isabel, 17 years old, studying wheat, building instead of breaking, living in a colony that the coalition refused to defend. "New harvest," she said. Blackwood nodded. "The Zarn are moving within 30 days. They think we're weak. They think 300 years of peace have made us forget who we are. Have we? You tell me, Captain, do you remember?" Reeves looked down at her hands. Hands that had piloted warships. Hands that had fired weapons designed to end civilizations. Hands that had carried her daughter as a newborn and promised to always protect her. She had broken that promise. She had gotten comfortable. She had believed the lie that humanity's teeth and claws could stay hidden forever. "I remember," she said quietly. "Good." Blackwood handed her a data tablet. "You're in command of the Relentless. 850 crew already assembled. Full weapons loadout. We launch in 18 hours. Where are we going?" "New harvest." To remind the Zarn why that door was locked from the inside, Reeves took the tablet, pulled up the fleet manifest, her breath caught. 240 warships. All of them impossible. All of them hidden for 3 centuries. And more were coming online every hour. 3,400 capital ships total. An entire war fleet disguised as a peaceful merchant navy. "They're going to call us warmongers," Reeves said. "Let them," Blackwood replied. "Better to be judged by the living than mourned by the dead." Day 28. Reeves stood on the bridge of the Relentless and felt like she had never left. The command chair molded to her body. The displays responded to her neural interface as if 15 years had been 15 seconds. Her crew moved with precision, born of training that had never really stopped. Lieutenant Helena Thorne, her tactical officer, was 28 years old. Brilliant. Recruited straight out of the Academy's Advanced Warfare Program. A program that officially didn't exist because the Earth Defense Force wasn't supposed to need one. Captain Helena said, "We're receiving final crew rosters from the other ships in First Fleet. All vessels report ready status. 240 warships. The first wave. The tip of the spear." Communications, Reeves said, "Fleet-wide channel." "Channel open, Captain." Reeves stood. The weight of command settled on her shoulders like an old coat. All ships, this is Captain Reeves Ashford of the USS Relentless. We are First Fleet. We are humanity's answer to 300 years of being treated as weak, as harmless, as acceptable collateral damage. She paused, looking at the view screen, showing Earth behind them. Home, worth fighting for. 36 hours from now, the Zarn will attack New Harvest. They believe we will accept it. They believe the coalition will do nothing. They believe humanity has forgotten war. Another pause. Her voice hardened. They are about to learn the difference between cannot hurt you and will not hurt you. They are about to learn what sleeping war gods look like when someone kicks the temple door. She sat down. All ships jumped to New Harvest. Maximum speed, no mercy. 240 warships vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. And on that beautiful blue planet, in classified facilities, hidden beneath museums and universities and civilian research centers, another 3,000 warships continued their silent preparation. Humanity was waking up, and the galaxy was going to remember why it should have let them sleep. Day 29, 2,200 hours. Reeves sat alone in her ready room, unable to sleep. In 18 hours, they would reach New Harvest. In 18 hours, she would either save her daughter or watch her die. The door chimed. "Come in." Ambassador Crane entered. He looked older than she remembered. Worn, but his eyes still held the steel she had always associated with the man who had once carried a rifle before he carried diplomatic credentials. "You should be resting," she said. "So should you." He sat across from her desk. "I got a message from Earth. They've compiled intelligence on the Zarn fleet." "How bad?" 200 warships, battle-tested, veterans of 17 successful conquests. He paused. "They're good, Reeves. So are we. We haven't fought a real war in 3 centuries. Neither has anyone else. The coalition has forgotten what war looks like. The Zarn remember conquest, but they've never met resistance that actually mattered." Reeves leaned back. "We've spent 300 years studying every conflict in galactic history. We've learned from Sun Tzu and Clausewitz and 1,000 other generals whose names the aliens have never heard. While they forgot war, we perfected it in secret." "And if you're wrong," Reeves was silent for a long moment. Then she pulled up a video file on her display. Isabel smiling, talking about wheat. "I'm not fighting because I hate the Zarn," Reeves said quietly. "I'm fighting because I love her. Because I failed to protect her by believing that hope alone could maintain peace. She's still alive, Reeves. New Harvest has 30 hours before the deadline. Then we have 30 hours to make sure she stays that way." Crane stood to leave, then paused at the door. "The council is terrified. They're holding emergency sessions every 6 hours. They think we've gone rogue. Let them think whatever they want. They had their chance to do the right thing. They chose politics over principles." Reeves's voice was ice. "Now they get to watch what happens when you abandon people who know how to fight but chose not to. And what happens after if we win. If we win, Nathaniel, the galaxy learns a lesson it should have learned 3 centuries ago. Civilization is measured by what we choose not to do with our power. It's having the strength to destroy and choosing to protect instead." Day 30, 0400 hours. The Zarn ultimatum came at dawn, New Harvest local time. Warlord Crothes's face filled every screen on the colony. 9 feet of scaled malevolence, armored in the confidence of 17 successful conquests. "Humans of New Harvest, your time has expired. You will accept hegemony protection or face the consequences. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation of your leadership to our vessels. Refusal will be considered an act of war." The colonial governor was a woman named Patricia Reeves, no relation, though the shared surname had always made Isabel laugh. She was 70, gray-haired, with a spine of pure titanium. Governor Reeves appeared on every screen moments after Crothes's ultimatum ended. "To Warlord Crothes and the Zarn hegemony, the people of New Harvest have voted. Our answer is no. We are citizens of Earth. We do not pay tribute. We do not bow. And we do not believe you have the courage to follow through on your threats against a defenseless civilian population." She leaned forward. "But just in case you do know that you're not facing a defenseless civilian population, you're facing humans. And humans have very long memories." The transmission ended. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Zarn opened fire. Plasma torpedoes streaked through vacuum. 40 orbital stations housing families, schools, research facilities. 40 points of light that held 40,000 lives. The torpedoes struck. The stations exploded in silence. No sound in vacuum, just light and expanding debris, and bodies flash-frozen in the eternal dark. 40,000 people, dead in less than an hour. Isabel Ashford was in the University Orbital Station when it was hit. Her lab was researching wheat that could end hunger. She was 17 years old. She died trying to save her research samples. The distress signal reached First Fleet 43 minutes later. Speed of light delay. By the time the news arrived, Isabel had been dead for nearly an hour. Reeves was on the bridge when the sensor officer's voice cracked. "Captain, we're receiving emergency broadcasts from New Harvest. Multiple stations destroyed. Casualty estimates." The officer's voice broke. 40,000 dead, ma'am." Reeves stood perfectly still. "Confirmed. Confirmed, Captain." The Zarn fired on civilian stations. No warning, no provocation beyond the governor's refusal. The bridge went silent. 850 crew members watched their captain, waiting. Reeves walked to her command chair, sat down. Her hands did not shake. Her voice did not waver. "Communications send a message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Text only. Release the fleets." Message sent, Captain. "Helm how long until we reach New Harvest?" 8 hours at maximum speed, ma'am. Make it 6. I don't care if you burn out the engines." "Aye, Captain." Reeves sat in that chair and stared at the view screen. At the stars, at the vast emptiness of space where her daughter had died 40 minutes ago. Helena approached carefully. "Captain, are you by? Lieutenant, I need you to pull up the tactical data on the Zarn fleet. I want firing solutions for every capital ship. I want their shield frequencies. I want every weakness in their formation." "Yes, ma'am." Helena hesitated. "Captain, the rules of engagement." Reeves finally looked at her. Helena took a step back. There was something in the captain's eyes that hadn't been there before. Something cold and ancient and absolutely terrifying. "The rules of engagement," Reeves said softly, "are Protocol 7. No restrictions, no mercy, no quarter asked or given." "Captain, that protocol hasn't been used in 300 years. I know." Reeves's voice was dead calm. "But they just reminded me why it exists. Now we remind them why humanity wrote it in blood." She stood, addressed the entire bridge. "They killed 40,000 civilians. They killed my daughter. They did it because they thought we were weak, because they thought 3 centuries of peace had made us forget who we are." Her voice rose, not shouting, something worse, something quietly furious. "They were wrong. We didn't forget war. We mastered it and chose to set it aside. Today they forced us to remember, and they will regret that choice." She sat back down. "All hands battle stations. Fleet-wide alert status. Prepare to engage." Across First Fleet, 240 warships went to war mode. Weapons that had been hidden for 3 centuries powered up. Shields that could stop nuclear detonations energized. Crews that had trained in secret their entire lives prepared to show the galaxy what humanity had been hiding. The war gods were awake, and someone was going to pay. End of Part 1. The Relentless and her sister ships raced through the dark carrying vengeance and grief, and 300 years of restrained violence finally unleashed. Behind them, Earth transmitted 2 words to every human ship, every colony, every outpost, Protocol Fenrir. And across human space in shipyards and colonies and installations, the Coalition didn't know existed. Thousands more warships began to wake. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson written in fire and blood. Peace maintained through weakness is just a pause between victimizations. Real peace requires the strength to defend it. Humanity had that strength. They had just been kind enough not to use it. That kindness was over. Someone had kicked the temple door. Now they would meet what had been sleeping inside. First Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the New Harvest system, like ghosts materializing from nothing. 240 warships, dark gray hulls with red stripes, silent, deadly, exactly where they needed to be. Captain Reeves Ashford stood on the bridge of the USS Relentless and looked at the tactical display. The Zarn fleet hung in orbit around New Harvest like vultures around a corpse. 200 warships, battle-tested predators who had conquered 17 species. They had no idea what was coming for them. "Sensor report," Reeves said quietly. 200 Zarn capital ships, Captain. Conventional formation. They're maintaining blockade positions around the planet. Debris field from the orbital stations is still expanding. Helena Thorne's voice caught slightly. "Confirmed 40,000 casualties. No survivors recovered from the stations." 40,000. Isabel was one number in that count. One life among thousands. But to Reeves, she was everything. "Are they detecting us?" "Not yet, ma'am. We're at extreme sensor range. They're not scanning for threats because they don't believe any exist." Reeves felt something cold and dark settle into her chest. Good. Let them believe they were safe. Let them believe humanity was weak. Let them believe right up until the moment they learn the truth. Fleet status. All ships report ready. Captain, weapons charged, shields at maximum. We are awaiting your orders. Reeves looked at her crew, 850 souls who had trained for this their entire lives, who had believed they might never need to use that training, who were about to discover that 3 centuries of preparation had not been wasted. Open a channel to the fleet. Command frequency. Channel open, Captain. Reeves stood. Her voice carried the weight of 300 years of hidden preparation, 300 years of restraint about to end. All ships, this is Ashford. Our mission is simple liberation and retaliation. The Tsar murdered 40,000 civilians because they believed we were weak. They believed the coalition's lie that humanity had evolved beyond violence. She paused, let her words sink in. They were wrong. We didn't evolve beyond violence. We mastered it and chose not to use it. There is a difference. Today we show them which one we are. Another pause, shorter this time. Rules of engagement, Protocol 7, no restrictions. I want every Zarn warship disabled or destroyed. I want their fleet broken so thoroughly that no one in this galaxy ever mistakes our restraint for weakness again. She sat down. All ships advance to engagement range. Attack formation Delta. On my mark. 240 warships began to move. Silent. Coordinated. Perfect. The Zarn finally noticed them 3 minutes later. Zarn flagship Crimson Fang Warlord Krethis was enjoying his victory. The human colony burned below. The orbital stations were debris, 40,000 dead. And not a single Shi had come to defend them, just as he predicted. The coalition was weak. The humans were weaker. Warlord, his censor officer's voice carried alarm. Multiple contacts at system edge. Unknown configuration. Count is, a pause. 200 plus vessels. Military configuration. Krathis felt a flicker of interest. Finally, someone with courage. Identify them. Unable to match against known military designs, Warlord, they're just sitting there, not advancing. Krathis studied this tactical display. The ships were strange, dark gray, rectangular, almost crude in appearance. But there were many of them, and they had appeared with military precision. Hail them, he ordered. The communications officer worked her console. Channel open, Warlord. The view screen flickered. A human female appeared, small by Zarn standards. Dark hair pulled back, eyes the color of ice. She wore a gray uniform with red stripes. Military? Official? Interesting. I am Warlord Krathis of the Zarn hegemony, he began, showing his teeth. You are outmatched human. Surrender your fleet, and we will allow you to evacuate New Harvest peacefully. The human tilted her head slightly. The gesture reminded Krathis of a predator studying prey. I am Captain Reeves Ashford of the United Earth spaceship Relentless, she said. Her voice was quiet, calm, utterly without fear. This is your only chance, Warlord. Withdraw from New Harvest immediately. Leave this system and never return. Kratos laughed. The sound boomed through the bridge. His crew joined in. This tiny human thought she could give him orders. Or what human, you'll glare at us sternly. Your people are merchants and artists. You play with food and music. You don't know war. The human's expression didn't change. You're right about one thing, Warlord. We're not merchants pretending to be warriors. She leaned forward slightly. We're warriors who are pretending to be merchants. There's a difference. You have 1 minute to begin your withdrawal. The transmission ended. Krathis stared at the blank screen for 3 seconds. Then he began laughing again. The arrogance, the delusion. These humans truly believed they could threaten the hegemony. How long until they're in firing range? He asked. They're advancing now, Warlord. Weapons range in 90 seconds. Prepare to fire on their flagship. I want it destroyed. Make an example. Yes, Warlord. 60 seconds passed. The human ships continued their advance. Steady, unwavering, like they actually believed they had a chance. Firing range achieved, Warlord. Fire, full barrage. Destroy that arrogant human. The Crimson Fang's main weapons charged. 3 plasma torpedoes, each carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block, streaked across space toward the human flagship. Direct hits, all 3. The bridge crew cheered. The cheering died as the sensor officer's voice cracked. Warlord, their shields held. No damage. The torpedoes just disappeared. What? I don't understand, sir. The energy readings show the torpedoes struck, but they didn't explode. They just ceased to exist. Their shields are operating on principles I've never seen before. Krathis felt the first cold finger of doubt touch his spine. All ships open fire, everything we have. 200 Zarn warships unleashed hell. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, railguns, enough firepower to crack a moon. The space between the two fleets lit up like a newborn star, and the human shields held. Every ship, all 240 of them. Impossible, Krathis whispered. Then the humans returned fire, USS Relentless. Reeves watched the Zarn barrage dissipate against her fleet's shields, like rain against stone. Beautiful. 3 centuries of physics research. Of learning how to bleed energy into dimensions the Zarn didn't know existed. Of turning defense into an art form. Shield integrity, she asked calmly. Fleet-wide average of 97%, Captain. The Zarn weapons can't penetrate. Their energy signatures are too conventional. Good. Reeves looked at her tactical officer. Lieutenant Thorne, you may fire when ready. Helena's hands moved across her console with practiced precision. Target Zarn flagship. Weapon main gun. Firing solution locked. Fire. The Relentless shuddered slightly as its main weapon spoke. It wasn't a plasma cannon. It wasn't a railgun. It was something the Zarn had never encountered because most species had decided the weapon was too terrible to develop. Humanity had decided differently. A beam of pure white light erupted from the Relentless. Not a laser. Something far worse. Focused gravitational energy. A weapon that didn't just damage matter, it twisted space itself. The beam touched the Crimson Fang's shields and punched through them like they were soap bubbles. It carved through the ship's armored hull, through deck after deck, through the command center where Warlord Krathis had just enough time to realize his terrible mistake. The Crimson Fang broke in half, atmosphere vented, bodies ejected into vacuum. 2 pieces of what had been the hegemon's most powerful warship tumbled through space, trailing frozen vapor and the flash-frozen corpses of crew who had believed themselves invincible. Target destroyed, Helena reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Warlord Krathis is confirmed dead. Reeves felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt. Just cold purpose. All ships open fire. Target their command vessels first. I want their fleet coordination disrupted within 5 minutes. First fleet opened fire. The Zarn had never seen weapons like these. Gravity beams that tore through shields and armor with equal ease. Missiles that could think for themselves, hunting down targets with terrifying efficiency. Point defense systems driven by quantum computers that never missed turning Zarn fighters into expanding clouds of debris. But it wasn't just the weapons. It was how the humans used them. The Zarn fought like they always had, with courage and aggression. They charged forward, tried to close the boarding range, attempted every tactic that had won them 17 conquests. The humans fought like demons. They used formations that made no sense until it was too late. They fired from angles that shouldn't be possible. They anticipated every Zarn move 3 steps ahead. Because humanity had been studying war for 10,000 years. They had texts from Sun Tzu and Clausewitz. They had learned from Napoleon and Patton and Zhuge Liang and 1,000 other generals whose names the galaxy had never heard. While other species forgot war, humanity had turned it into an art form, had hidden that art behind smiles and trade agreements, had waited 3 centuries for someone to give them permission to remember. The Zarn had kicked the temple door. Now they met the war gods. 4 hours later, the Battle of New Harvest was over, 120 Zarn warships destroyed. 80 crippled, their weapons offline, their engines dead. The survivors hung in space like wounded animals, waiting for the killing blow. First Fleet, 0 casualties. Minimal shield damage, 0 casualties. The galaxy watched through news drones and trembled. Reeves stood on her bridge and looked at the debris field. Zarn ships, Zarn bodies. 50,000 Zarn warriors who had believed themselves superior, meeting humans who had perfected war while pretending to forget it. She felt empty. Isabel was still dead. 40,000 civilians were still dead. Vengeance didn't bring them back. Victory was just the absence of loss, and Reeves had already lost everything that mattered. Captain, Helena said quietly, we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining Zarn vessels. What are your orders? Reeves was silent for a long moment. Protocol 7 said no mercy. No quarter. She could destroy the remaining 80 ships. Could kill another 40,000 Zarn. Could make the mathematics of revenge balance. But Isabel wouldn't want that. Isabel had believed in feeding people, not destroying them. Accept their surrenders, Reeves said. Have boarding parties secure their ships. Any resistance is met with immediate termination. But if they lay down arms, they're taken prisoner according to coalition standards. Yes, ma'am. And Helena, have rescue teams search the debris field. I want every survivor recovered. Theirs and ours. Captain, there were no human casualties. There were 40,000 casualties 30 hours ago. I want those bodies recovered. Every one of them. They deserve better than to drift in space forever. Helena's eyes glistened. Yes, Captain. Immediately. Sanctuary Prime Coalition Council. The emergency session had been going for 6 hours. 47 species watching the same footage over and over. 240 human ships destroying 200 Zarn warships in 4 hours. 0 human casualties. Ambassador Nathaniel Crane sat in the human delegation area and said nothing. He didn't need to. The footage spoke for itself. The council leader, the elderly Vin, whose crystalline form reflected his agitation in scattered light patterns, finally spoke. How did humanity hide this? A coalition intelligence officer named Tavera stood. She was Vin, as well one of the galaxy's best analysts. She looked physically ill. We ran a deep analysis, Tavera said. Her voice shook, cross-referencing 3 centuries of human activity, ship manifests, resource allocations, power consumption, educational curricula, everything. She pulled up holographic displays. These vessels we thought were simple cargo freighters have reinforced hulls rated for military combat. Their cargo containers can be ejected as missile platforms. Every single human civilian ship can be converted to military use in less than 6 hours. Another image. Human mining colonies on asteroids. We thought they were extracting resources for trade. They were. But they were also building ship components in underground facilities our sensors never detected. Every human colony has hidden factories. A third image, their education system. We thought their obsession with history was cultural. It wasn't. Every human child learns military tactics as part of basic education. They call it strategy games and historical recreation. They're teaching warfare to kindergartners and calling it play. The council sat in horrified silence. There's more, Tavara said quietly. Those shields that stopped Zarn weapons. They're based on quantum dimensional bleed principles we're still trying to understand. That white light weapon that destroyed the Crimson Fang, it's a focused gravity beam. They've weaponized gravity itself. But our physicists said that was impossible, someone protested. Human physicists clearly disagreed. Tavera closed the displays. We've been thinking about this wrong. Humans didn't hide a military behind their civilian society. They built a civilian society that was a military. Every farmer knows how to operate anti-aircraft systems. Every teacher can read tactical displays. Every musician can field strip an assault rifle. They're all soldiers, every single one of them. They just chose not to be, until the Zarn forced them to remember. The council leader looked at Crane. Ambassador, what is humanity's intention? Crane stood slowly. 60 years of diplomatic training held him steady, but his voice carried an edge of cold fury. Our intention, council leader, is to ensure this never happens again. You invoked Article 12 of your own charter. We asked for mutual defense. You voted it down. 41 species chose politics over principles. Not one of you voted to defend human lives with military action. We offered diplomatic solutions. You offered words, Crane cut him off. The Zarn offered violence. Words don't stop violence. Only greater violence stops violence. You all know this. Your species learned it in your own histories, but you forgot. You built a civilization on the assumption that everyone would choose peace. He pulled up a holographic display. In the past 3 centuries, 14 coalition species have been attacked. Every single time this council voted for diplomatic solutions. Every single time those solutions failed, 8 of those species no longer exist. The chamber went silent. You didn't defend them, Crane continued. You held meetings while they died. You passed resolutions while their worlds burned. Then you held memorial services and pretended you'd done everything you could. What would you have us do? Council Leader Vexter demanded. Maintain permanent war fleets. Become militaristic like the species we despise. You should have been honest, Crane said quietly. You should have admitted that protecting peace requires strength. Instead, you created a society where being strong was seen as barbaric, where preparing for war was treated as warmongering. You made weakness into a virtue. He looked around the chamber. Humanity learned a harder truth. We learned that having the capacity for violence and choosing not to use it is what real civilization looks like. You can't choose restraint if you're not capable of force. A Rain ambassador stood. You threatened to kill 14 billion Zarn. You built weapons that violate every civilized principle. We built those weapons, Crane agreed, And then we won't use them unless we must. That restraint, that choice is what separates us from barbarians. Not pretending weapons don't exist. You could destroy us all, someone whispered. We still can, Crane said bluntly. We have weapons you haven't seen. Technology we've spent 3 centuries developing, while you spent 3 centuries forgetting that evil exists. But we won't destroy you, because we're not the monsters you're afraid we are. New Harvest Orbit. 12 hours post-battle, Reeves stood in the shuttle bay watching rescue teams bring bodies back to the Relentless. 40,000 civilians. Most would never be identified. The plasma torpedoes had been too thorough, but they would all be honored, all be remembered. A Marine lieutenant approached. Captain, we've finished securing the Zarn prison vessels. 12,000 enemy combatants in custody. How are they being treated? Medical care for wounded, food and water for all. We're following coalition prisoner protocols. Good. Reeves turned to face him. I want every Zarn prisoner to understand something, Lieutenant. We had the power to kill them all. We chose not to. Make sure they know that. Yes, ma'am, Helena appeared. Captain, you have a visitor. She's unusual. Who tell? Commander Thalen Zarn. She was the tactical officer on one of their cruisers. She's requesting to speak with you personally. Reeves was silent for a moment. Then bring her to conference room 3. I'll meet her there. Conference room 3 was stark, functional, 2 chairs, a table, nothing else. Commander Thalen entered under guard. She was 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales with intelligent golden eyes that studied Reeves carefully. She wore the remnants of a Zarn naval uniform, scorched and torn. Reeves dismissed the guards. Thalen's eyes widened slightly. You're not afraid of me, Thalen asked. Should I be, your ship is destroyed. Your fleet is broken. Your warlord is dead. What can you do to me that hasn't already been done? Thalen was silent. Then why did you capture us? Why not just destroy every ship after what we did to your people? You had every right. I had the power, Reeves corrected. Rights are philosophical constructs. Power is real. And yes, I had the power to kill every Zarn in this system. She sat down, gestured for Thalen to do the same. After a moment, the Zarn warrior sat. My daughter died on that station, Reeves said quietly. She was 17 years old. She was studying agricultural genetics. She wanted to engineer wheat that could grow in marginal soil. She wanted to feed the galaxy. Thalen's eyes closed. I'm sorry. Your people killed her because you believed we were weak? Because you thought 3 centuries of peace meant we had forgotten war? You're not sorry. You're shocked that you lost. Yes, Thalen said after a moment. Honest. Direct. We've conquered 17 species. None of them fought back effectively. We thought we were invincible. You thought you were strong. There's a difference. Reeves leaned forward. You met species who had forgotten war. We didn't forget. We mastered war and chose not to use it until you forced us to remember. What happens to us now? That depends. Are you asking what happens to you personally or what happens to the Zarn hegemony? Both? Reeves pulled up a data tablet. You personally will be held as a prisoner of war according to coalition standards. You'll be treated humanely, fed, given medical care. Eventually you'll go home. And the hegemony is about to learn a very expensive lesson. Reeves showed her the tablet. The Zarn still have military assets scattered across your territory. 8,000 ships, planetary defense grids, armies. We're going to dismantle all of it. Thalen's expression hardened. You're going to invade our worlds. We're going to liberate the species you've conquered. We're going to disarm your military. And then we're going to do something that will probably confuse you. What? We're going to help you rebuild. Thalen stared. What? After this war is over, your people will need jobs, infrastructure, education. We're not here to commit genocide, Commander. We're here to break your military so they never threaten anyone again. And then we're going to teach you how to be strong without being cruel, how to be proud without being aggressive. Why would you help us? We murdered 40,000 of your people. Reeves was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried the weight of 3 centuries. Because 300 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself. We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions. We created weapons that could end all life on Earth. We looked at what we'd become and were disgusted. She met Thalen's eyes. Someone helped us rebuild, gave us a chance to be better. Now we pay that forward. You're not the first predator species in the galaxy, Commander. You're just the first one who made the mistake of attacking us. Thalen was silent for a very long time. Then your daughter, what was her name? Isabel. I will remember that name. I will tell my people. Isabel Ashford, 17 years old, wanted to feed the galaxy, died because we were fools. Reeves felt something crack in her chest, not breaking, shifting. The first tiny movement of grief beginning to transform into purpose. Thank you, she whispered. Day 3. Post-battle. Second Fleet arrived in the cash star system. The Zarn had fortified it heavily after news of new harvest reached them. Triple-layered shields, planetary defense guns, orbital minefields. It should have taken months to crack. Captain James Rodriguez of the USS Thunderchild did it in 6 hours. He used weapons that made the Zarn question reality itself. Missiles that somehow appeared inside shield perimeters, having teleported through solid barriers. Drones that replicated themselves using matter from destroyed Zarn ships, turning the enemy's own vessels into weapons against them. And worst of all, cyber attacks so sophisticated they seemed almost alive. The Zarn tried to shut down their computer systems to prevent hacking. The human AI simply wrote new code into their backup systems using quantum entanglement. The Zarn tried to fight without computers. The humans shot them apart with conventional weapons. There was no winning move. Day 7. Third Fleet hit Zarn mining operations in the Keter Belt. These weren't military targets. They were industrial facilities, lightly defended. The Zarn expected destruction. Instead, the humans boarded them, captured them intact, secured the workers and gave them a choice: surrender or die. Most chose surrender. A Zarn mine supervisor named Corval found himself face-to-face with a human boarding party. Their leader was a woman, Captain Sarah Martinez of the USS Valiant. She held a rifle, but it was pointed at the deck. "You're not going to kill us," Corval asked. "Not if you don't resist. Power down your systems. Assemble your crew in the main cargo bay. Anyone who surrenders will be treated as prisoners of war." "Why capture our facilities? Why not destroy them?" Martinez checked her rifle's charge pack. "Because after this war is over, your people will need jobs. They'll need a way to feed themselves. We're not here to commit genocide. We're here to break your military so they never threaten anyone again. You're conquering us to help us. No, we're conquering you to teach you. There's a difference." Day 12, Fourth Fleet encountered the Zarn Second Armada. 200 fresh warships that had been held in reserve. The Zarn commanders were confident. These ships had newer weapons, better shields. They had studied human tactics from New Harvest. It didn't matter. Admiral Patricia Chen, commanding from the USS Defiant, introduced a weapon the Zarn had never considered: relativistic kill vehicles. Not complex missiles with guidance systems and warheads, just chunks of dense metal accelerated to 90% of light speed. You couldn't detect them until it was too late. Couldn't shoot them down. Couldn't dodge them. Physics became a weapon, and physics always won. The Zarn's Second Armada lasted 3 hours. Day 20. The Zarn had lost half their military fleet. By day 30, 3/4 was gone. By day 40, they were desperately pulling everything back to defend Zarn Prime, their homeworld. Captain Reeves Ashford stood on the bridge of the Relentless and studied the intelligence reports. Every remaining Zarn asset was congregating at their home system. 14 billion people. Their entire civilization making its last stand. "They're going to fight to the end," Helena said quietly. "Yes," Reeves agreed. "They don't believe we'll show mercy. They've spent centuries conquering. In their experience, the defeated are enslaved or exterminated. They don't understand that we're different. How do we make them understand?" Reeves was silent for a long moment. Then she pulled up a classified file. Her hands were steady, but Helena saw the captain's jaw tighten. "We show them something so terrifying they understand that continued fighting is pointless. And then we offer them a way out that doesn't involve their extinction. Captain, contact Admiral Blackwood. Tell him I'm requesting authorization for Helios deployment." Helena's face went pale. "Captain, that's—" "I know what it is, Lieutenant. Make the call." Day 40. Combined human fleet assembled at the edge of the Zarn Prime system. 400 warships now, more arriving every day. They had the strength to crush Zarn Prime, to burn it from orbit, to make it a monument to the price of threatening humanity. But that wasn't why they came. Reeves stood on her bridge and watched as something massive entered the system, not a ship, too big, 30 kilometers long. A weapons platform bristling with technology that violated every treaty the Coalition had ever written. It was called Helios, and it was pointing at the Zarn sun. The Zarn detected it immediately. Alarms screamed across their homeworld. Scientists ran calculations and came back with numbers that couldn't be real. "What is that?" Chancellor Vorath demanded. He was old by Zarn standards, his scales grayed with age, but his mind was still sharp. "A weapons platform, Chancellor. Energy readings are impossible. If it fires, if it uses its main weapon, The science advisor's voice trembled. It could destabilize our sun. Our star would go supernova. Everything in this system would die within hours. 14 billion people. The entire Zarn species lived in this system. They had colonies elsewhere, but 90% of all Zarn called this place home. They wouldn't, Vorath whispered. They can't. No species would commit genocide. Chancellor, the humans built it, and they brought it here for a reason. A transmission came through. Every screen across Zarn Prime lit up with the same image. Captain Reeves Ashford in her dark gray uniform, ice blue eyes, expression unreadable. People of the Zarn hegemony, she began. Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact. I am Captain Reeves Ashford. That platform you've detected is called Helios. It is capable of destroying your sun. Before you ask, yes, we would use it. She paused. Let that sink in. Not because we want to, but because you need to understand that this war is over. You lost. Your military fought bravely, but bravery cannot defeat physics. Courage cannot stop mathematics. Another pause. You attacked us believing we were weak. You were wrong. We are not weak. We are restrained. There is a difference. Her voice hardened slightly. I am offering you a choice. Surrender now, completely, unconditionally. Dismantle your military. Accept coalition oversight, or we will destroy your sun and you will all die. You have 6 hours. The transmission ended. On Zarn Prime, panic spread, then rage, then slowly terribly understanding. They had poked a sleeping monster. The monster was now showing them its full size, and it was giving them one chance to live. Chancellor Vorath called an emergency council. The debate lasted 5 hours. Some wanted to fight to the end. Some wanted to surrender. Some just wanted to know why. Why would humanity build such a terrible weapon? Why show mercy to prisoners but threaten to kill everyone? Vorath stared at the image of Helios on his screens and thought about his granddaughter. 8 years old, innocent. She had never hurt anyone. He thought about Isabel Ashford, 17 years old, studying wheat. She had never hurt anyone either. War didn't care about innocence. How long until the deadline, he asked. 43 minutes, Chancellor. Vorath looked at his council, old warriors, proud, fierce, and terrified. If we surrender, he said quietly, what happens to us? No one answered. They didn't know. A communication came through, unexpected. It was Commander Thelen transmitted from human custody. Chancellor Vorath, she said. Her voice was steady. I am Commander Thelen. I fought at New Harvest. I was taken prisoner. I have been treated with honor, fed, given medical care. The humans kept their word. That doesn't mean, someone began. Chancellor, listen to me. These humans are not like the species we've conquered. They had the power to kill us all. They chose not to. They could destroy us now. They're offering mercy instead. Take it, please, for our children. The transmission ended. Vorath looked at his granddaughter's photo on his desk. 8 years old. She liked to draw pictures of starships. Wanted to be an explorer when she grew up. Signal the humans, he said quietly. The Zarn hegemony surrenders. Unconditionally. USS Relentless. Reeves received the surrender notice and felt absolutely nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. Helios platform status, she asked. Standing by, Captain. Ready to fire on your order. Stand down, power down the main weapon. We won't need it. Helena exhaled slowly. Thank God. Don't thank God yet, Lieutenant. We just won the war. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Reeves looked at the image of Zarn Prime on her screen. 14 billion souls who had surrendered because they finally understood they were beaten. Winning the peace, she said quietly. Making sure this never happens again. Teaching them that strength and cruelty are not the same thing. That's harder than destroying them would be. She stood. Send a message to Earth. Tell them it's over. Zarn has surrendered. Total human casualties. Her voice caught slightly. 40,000 civilian, 0 military. 40,000, including Isabel. Victory tasted like ashes. End of part 2. The war was over in 60 days. 60 days to dismantle an empire. 60 days to teach the galaxy that humanity had never forgotten war. They had just chosen not to use it. And the galaxy watched, terrified, awed, finally understanding that the peaceful humans had never been weak. They had been kind. And there is a universe of difference between the two. Someone had kicked the temple door. They had met the war gods. And the war gods had chosen mercy. But the galaxy would never forget what that mercy had cost, or what power had been restrained to offer it. The war was over. The killing had stopped. But Captain Reeves Ashford understood that the hardest part was just beginning. 3 days after the surrender, Reeves's shuttle descended through Zarn Prime's atmosphere. 100 Marines accompanied her full combat gear weapons ready. Not because they expected a fight, because respect is earned through strength and the Zarn respected nothing else. The capital city of Zarthok sprawled beneath them, massive, ancient, built by a warrior culture over millennia. Spires of dark stone reaching toward a crimson sky. Everything about it spoke of a civilization built on conquest. And now that civilization knelt. Chancellor Vorath waited in the Plaza of Victories, a space designed for triumph celebrations after successful wars. How fitting that it would host their greatest defeat. Reeves stepped off the shuttle. Vorath stood at the center of the plaza, surrounded by what remained of his government. Old warriors, most of them, scarred, proud, broken. The Chancellor knelt. Reeves stopped 3 meters away. "Stand up." Vorath looked up, confusion flickering across his reptilian features. "Stand up," Reeves repeated. Her voice was firm but not cruel. "We don't humiliate the defeated. That's what barbarians do." "We're not barbarians." Slowly, uncertainly, Vorath rose. Around him, his council did the same. "You surrender unconditionally," Reeves said. It was not a question. "We do, Captain Ashford. The Zarn hegemony places itself at humanity's mercy." Mercy, Reeves let the word hang in the air. "Do you know what that word means?" Chancellor really means to spare those who cannot defend themselves. "No, that's clemency. Mercy is choosing not to use power you possess. It's restraint. It's the gap between what you can do and what you choose to do." She took a step closer. "We could have destroyed your son, killed 14 billion people. We had the power. We chose not to. That is mercy." Vorath's scales darkened, a sign of shame in Zarn physiology. "What do you want from us?" Reeves pulled out a data tablet. "These are the terms, non-negotiable. 20% of your gross domestic product goes to New Harvest as reparations for 50 years. Your military is reduced to 10% current-size defensive operations only. Coalition oversight teams will monitor your government. Your education system will be reformed to teach cooperation instead of conquest." She handed him the tablet. "You will pay, you will change, or you will cease to exist. Those are your options." Vorath studied the terms. His hands trembled slightly. "These conditions, they will cripple us economically. Our people will suffer. Your people should have thought about that before you murdered 40,000 civilians." Reeves's voice was ice. "My daughter was 17 years old. She wanted to engineer wheat that could feed the galaxy. She died because you believed we were weak. Yes, Chancellor, your people will suffer. They have earned that suffering." Silence stretched across the plaza. Wind whistled through the stone spires. Then Reeves said something that clearly surprised every Zarn present. "However, humanity will provide economic assistance, reconstruction aid, technology transfers. We will help you rebuild your infrastructure, train your workers for peaceful industries, transition your economy from war to peace." Vorath stared. I don't understand." "You will punish us and help us. We will make you pay for your crimes, and then we will teach you not to commit them again. That's how you break a cycle of violence, Chancellor. Punishment alone creates resentment. Help alone creates dependency. Both together create change." She gestured to her Marines. "We're not here as conquerors. We're here as teachers. 300 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself. We were saved because someone chose to help us rebuild. Now we do the same for you." "Why?" Reeves was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of human history. "Because we remember what it's like to be the villain. We know what genocide looks like. We've done it to ourselves. We've committed atrocities that would make your conquest look merciful. And we learned painfully that the only way out of that darkness is through mercy and education." She met Vorath's eyes. "Your children don't need to be warriors, Chancellor. They can be engineers, scientists, artists, farmers. We will teach you how." 2 weeks later, New Harvest. The memorial was held on the planet's surface, a field of 40,000 white stone markers, each one inscribed with the name. Captain Reeves Ashford stood before one marker in particular. Isabel Marie Ashford, age 17. She wanted to feed the galaxy. Beside her stood Governor Patricia Reeves and Ambassador Crane. Behind them, thousands had gathered. Humans. And surprisingly, Zarn. Commander Thallon stood with a delegation of former prisoners of war. The ceremony began. 40,000 names read aloud. It took hours. When they reached Isabel's name, Reeves felt her chest tighten, felt the weight of grief she had been holding back finally pressing down. Tears came. For the first time since Isabel died, Reeves allowed herself to cry. A hand touched her shoulder, Helena Thorne standing beside her. Then another hand, Governor Patricia. And then unexpectedly, Commander Thalen approached. The Zarn warrior knelt and placed something at the base of Isabel's marker. Seeds. Wheat seeds. Native to the Zarn homeworld. In my culture, Thalen said quietly, we honor the dead by ensuring their dreams live on. Your daughter wanted to feed people. Perhaps these seeds and her research can be combined. Perhaps something good can grow from this tragedy. Reeves stared at the seeds, at the impossible gesture of respect from an enemy who had learned the cost of cruelty. Thank you, she whispered. After the names were read, Reeves stepped forward to speak. War doesn't have victors and losers, she began. It has the dead and the survivors. We honor both today, our 40,000, and the Zarn who died in battle. She paused. 100,000 Zarn warriors died fighting us. They were soldiers following orders. They believed their cause was just. They were wrong, but they were still people. They had families, they had dreams. She looked at Thalen. We honor them not because we forgive what the Zarn did. We honor them because refusing to see the humanity in our enemies makes us into the monsters we claim to fight. She placed her hand on Isabel's marker. My daughter believed in building instead of destroying. She died because someone believed violence was the answer. I could let that turn me into something she wouldn't recognize. Or I can honor her by trying to build the galaxy she believed in. We won the war. Now we have to win the peace. That requires us to forgive without forgetting, to show mercy without betraying justice. Isabel would have wanted that, so that's what we'll do. 3 days later, Reeves walked through the ruins of the University Orbital Station. The research vault was built to withstand everything the seal had held. Inside, preserved in cryogenic suspension, were Isabel's samples. Wheat genetics, modified strains, years of research, her daughter's legacy. Dr. Sarah Kim stood beside her. The samples are intact, Captain. Isabel's research was brilliant. With proper resources, we could have field-ready strains within 6 months. Her modified wheat could feed 2 million additional people per harvest cycle on marginal worlds. Reeves felt something shift in her chest, not healing, but purpose, a way to transform grief into something meaningful. Do it, she said. Full funding. Whatever you need, I want Isabel's wheat growing on every marginal world in coalition space. What should we call it? Reeves looked at the vault. Call it Isabel's hope. Let everyone who eats bread made from it know that a 17-year-old girl believed in feeding people instead of fighting them. Sanctuary Prime. 1 month after surrender, the emergency session had been called by Ambassador Crane. But when it began, it wasn't Crane who spoke. Captain Reeves Ashford walked into the chamber in full dress uniform. Dark gray with red stripes, every medal earned, every commendation from 2 months of war. She looked like what she was, a warrior forced back into her true nature. The council fell silent as she approached the center platform. Members of the Coalition Council, Reeves began. I am Captain Reeves Ashford. I fought the war you refused to fight. I killed the enemy you refused to kill. I won the peace you couldn't maintain. She looked around the chamber. 47 species, not one meeting her eyes. Humanity formally withdraws from the coalition, effective immediately. Chaos, shouting, protest. She waited for it to subside. For 300 years, you failed Article 12 of your own charter. The Zarn attacked New Harvest. We invoked mutual defense. You voted it down. Not one of you voted to defend human lives with military force. We offered diplomatic solutions, someone protested. You offered words. The Zarn offered violence. Words don't stop violence. She pulled up a holographic display. In the past 3 centuries, 14 coalition species have been attacked. Every single time you voted for diplomatic solutions. Every single time those solutions failed. 8 of those species no longer exist. The chamber was silent now. You built a peace based on hope. Hope that everyone would be reasonable. That's not peace. That's naive optimism masquerading as civilization. Council leader Vexter stood. What would you have us do? Maintain permanent war fleets. You should have been honest. You should have admitted that protecting peace requires strength. Instead, you created a society where being strong was seen as barbaric. She looked around the chamber. Humanity learned that having the capacity for violence and choosing not to use it is what real civilization looks like. You threatened genocide. Iranian ambassador stood. You built a weapon that could kill 14 billion people. Yes, we did, and then we didn't use it. We had the power. We had the justification. We could have ended the Zarn species in a day. She paused. We chose not to. We showed mercy. We're helping them rebuild. That is civilization. You could destroy us all, someone whispered. We still can, Reeves said bluntly. We have 3,400 warships. We have weapons technology centuries ahead of yours. If we wanted to conquer the coalition, we could do it in 6 months. She let the fear build. But we won't, because we're not the monsters you're afraid we are. We're something different. We're guardians who remember what it's like to be wolves. Crane stepped forward. Humanity proposes a new arrangement. We withdraw from the coalition as voting members. We become an independent protectorate force. When coalition species are attacked, we will respond. No votes, no debates, no delays. You're demanding control, Vexter protested. No, Reeves said. We're offering protection, free protection. We ask for nothing in return, not territory, not tribute, not political power. When you're attacked, we defend you. That's all. Why? Reeves thought of Isabel, of 40,000 civilians who died because no one would defend them. Because we have the strength to defend others. So we will. Not because we profit from it, because it's the responsibility that comes with power. Crane spoke civis pacem parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. For 3 centuries, you thought that was barbaric. His voice strengthened. These 40,000 people died to teach the galaxy a lesson: evil exists. Peace requires strength to defend it. Humanity could have become tyrants. We chose to become guardians. That choice will echo through generations. The vote took 2 days. In the end, 32 species accepted human protection, 15 rejected it. 5 species requested to join Earth's alliance directly. The coalition survived, but changed. Species began rebuilding their own defenses. The Council created rapid response protocols. They learned, slowly, painfully, but they learned. Zarn Prime 3 months post-war. Chancellor Vorath met with Captain Ashford in the former War Ministry building, now being converted into an education center. Your reconstruction teams are efficient, Vorath said. The damaged infrastructure is already 70% repaired. We had 3 centuries to plan this, Reeves replied. We studied every post-war reconstruction in history. The economic assistance is generous, more generous than we deserve. You deserve justice. You're receiving mercy. There's a difference. Reeves pulled up economic reports. Your GDP has dropped 40%, but with our assistance, you'll be back to 80% within 5 years. You'll survive. Vorath was silent. Why, after what we did, why help us? Because punishment alone doesn't work. You can crush an enemy and create a generation seeking revenge, or you can teach them and create a partner. Your history, Reeves nodded. Humanity fought for 10,000 years. We killed hundreds of millions of our own species. Atrocities that make your conquests look restrained. We clawed back from extinction. Someone helped us rebuild. Now we pay that forward. And if we betray you again, then we'll remind you more forcefully. Reeves's expression was hard. But I don't think you will. You've seen what we're capable of. More importantly, you've seen what we're capable of not doing. The difference between barbarians and civilization, Vorath said quietly. Exactly. Barbarians destroy because they can. Civilization restrains because it chooses to. That choice is everything. Vorath pulled up a document. The Zarn Council has been discussing something. A request. What request? In 10 years, when we have proven we have changed, we would like to request membership in the Terran Defense Concordat to help protect the galaxy, to prove we've learned. Reeves was silent for a long moment. 10 years is a long time. A lot can change. But if you truly reform, if you show you've learned that strength and cruelty are not the same thing, then yes, we'll consider it. Former enemies can become allies. That's the whole point. 5 years later. Commander Helena Thorne, now Captain Thorne, stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, her first command. She was 33 now, seasoned by 5 years of peacekeeping operations. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the Miri system. Unknown raiders attacking civilian shipping. The Miri, the species who had nearly been wiped out by pirates 15 years ago because the coalition debated for 3 months before acting. How many raiders? 12 ships. Set course for Miri space, maximum speed, combat alert status. The Valiant and her escort group jumped to hyperspace. They arrived 40 minutes later. The Valiant disabled all 12 ships in 17 minutes. Zero casualties. The raiders surrendered immediately when they realized they were facing human warships. This is Captain Helena Thorne of the Terran Defense Concordat. You are under arrest for piracy. Power down your vessels and prepare to be boarded. They complied, because everyone in the galaxy had learned you don't fight humans. After securing the prisoners, Helena received a transmission from the Miri government. The Prime Minister, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, you came so quickly. Not like before. Thank you. Helena felt the weight of responsibility settle firmly on her shoulders. This was why humanity had taken on the guardian role, because someone needed to. You're welcome, Prime Minister. That's what we do. 10 years after the war, Grand Admiral Reeves Ashford stood in the conference room of Terran Defense Headquarters above Earth. She was 52 now, gray strands in her hair, lines on her face, but her eyes were still sharp. Admiral, her aide said the Zarn delegation is here. Send them in. Commander Thalen entered bearing scars from battles fought alongside humans. Behind her, Chancellor Vorath, retired, but still influential, and 3 other Zarn officials. Grand Admiral, Thalen said formally, the Zarn Confederation formally requests membership in the Terran Defense Concordat. We have completed our 10-year reformation period. We have paid our reparations. We wish to serve. Reeves studied them. 10 years, 300 billion credits paid, an entire generation educated in cooperation, military reduced and reformed. Why, Reeves asked. Why do you want to join? Thalen answered. Because we've learned what you tried to teach us. That strength is not the same as cruelty. That protection is more honorable than conquest. We owe a debt we can never fully repay. 40,000 human lives. Isabel Ashford's life. We want to honor that debt by helping to protect others. Vorath added, we were wolves, Admiral. You taught us to be guard dogs instead. Now we want to serve that purpose. Reeves was silent for a long moment. Then she stood, extended her hand. Welcome to the Concordat, Commander Thalen. Your fleet will bear our colors. Dark gray with red stripes. Can you carry that honor? Thalen gripped her hand. We will earn it every day, Admiral. We swear it. That evening, Reeves stood alone in her office looking out at Earth. Home. Still beautiful. Still worth defending. On her desk, a data report. Isabel's Hope wheat strain was now growing on 47 worlds, feeding 2.3 million people. New harvest rebuilt population 2.8 billion. Her daughter's dream had come true. Isabel was feeding the galaxy. A knock on the door. Ambassador Crane entered. He was 70 now, white-haired, moving slowly. Nathaniel, I thought you'd be at the retirement ceremony. I wanted to talk to you first. He sat down. Tomorrow is my last day. 60 years of service. Time to let younger people carry the burden. You've earned the rest. Have any of us? He looked at her. We created this situation. We hid humanity's strength for 3 centuries. Was it worth it? Reeves was silent. 40,000 people died because we weren't prepared to defend them quickly enough. That's the key. But millions more have been saved because we were prepared at all, Crane countered. 43 conflicts resolved in 10 years. 8 attempted genocides prevented. Was the lie worth that? I don't know, Reeves admitted. I think about Isabel every day. But I also think about all the daughters who are alive because we became guardians. Maybe that's the answer. Crane stood to leave. They're calling tomorrow's ceremony the transfer of wisdom. What should I say? Reeves looked out at Earth, at the fleet, at the responsibility humanity had taken on. Tell them the truth, Nathaniel. Tell them that civilization is not the absence of violence. It's the mastery of violence. Tell them that real strength is choosing not to destroy when you can. Tell them we could be tyrants, but we chose to be guardians. And that choice matters more than anything. The next day, Ambassador Crane stood before thousands. Humans, aliens, former enemies. 300 years ago, he began. An ancient human philosopher said, "Si vis pacem para bellum." If you want peace, prepare for war. If for 3 centuries the coalition thought that was barbaric. They thought peace could be maintained through hope and good intentions. He paused. 40,000 people died at New Harvest because of that belief. They died so the galaxy could remember evil exists. Peace requires strength to defend it. His voice strengthened. Humanity could have become tyrants. We had the power. We could have conquered the coalition in 6 months. We chose not to. We became guardians instead. That choice, that simple choice between tyrant and guardian, separates civilization from chaos. And that choice must be made every single day. He looked at his granddaughter in the audience, 12 years old, growing up in a galaxy where humans were protectors. The next generation will carry this burden. They will have to choose every day whether to use their strength for domination or protection. I pray they choose wisely. He stepped down. The torch passed. 2 months later, Grand Admiral Reeves Ashford sat on the bridge of the Relentless, the newest flagship. Around her, a fleet of 80 warships patrolled the border regions. Admiral, we're receiving a distress call. Belran sector, unknown raiders attacking a civilian convoy. Multiple casualties reported. Reeves didn't hesitate. All ships jumped to Belran. Maximum speed, combat alert. Prepare to engage. Captain Thorne looked concerned. Admiral, this could be a trap. Then we spring it, Reeves said simply. Guardians don't hide from danger. We run toward it. She stood, walked to the viewport. On her command chair sat a small holographic projector showing Isabel at 17 smiling holding wheat. We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us, Reeves said quietly. We fight because we love what's behind us. She thought of Isabel, of 40,000 at New Harvest, of every child across the galaxy who deserved to grow up safe. Her communicator chimed, Dr. Kim from New Harvest. Admiral, latest harvest data. Isabel's hope is now feeding 3.2 million people across 53 worlds. Your daughter is changing the galaxy. Reeves closed her eyes briefly, smiled. Thank you, Doctor. She opened her eyes, looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, wheat engineered by a 17-year-old girl was growing, feeding people, making the galaxy a little less hungry, a little more hopeful. That was civilization. Not the absence of violence. The choice to build instead of destroy. All ships, Reeves commanded, jump. The fleet vanished into hyperspace. Behind them, Earth continued its eternal watch. The homeworld of warriors who chose to be guardians, who remembered what they were capable of and chose mercy anyway. Every single day, that choice, that simple, terrible, beautiful choice was what separated them from the monsters. And Grand Admiral Reeves Ashford would make sure that every generation understood power without wisdom is tyranny. Strength without restraint is barbarism. But power wielded with mercy, that was humanity. That was civilization. That was the legacy Isabel died for. And the future Reeves would spend her life protecting. The war gods slept, but they never forgot. And the galaxy would never forget what happened when someone was foolish enough to wake them. Peace reigned. Not because violence was impossible, but because those capable of violence chose something better.